Well, he certainly talked about the campaign today, so he'll be able to continue doing that. Sarah, thanks very much. Let's bring in the panel. CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers, Cornell William Brooks, president and CEO of the NAACP, CNN chief national security correspondent Jim Sciutto, CNN senior political analyst David Gergen, also investigative reporter and author Carl Bernstein, and Trump supporter Jeffrey Lord, contributing editor to the American Spectator. Jim, let's start off with you. First, the breaking news. How big a setback is it for President Trump that his latest pick for national security advisor has turned down the job?
It's a big deal. This is a big job. National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. And Trump appealed to someone for whom duty is supreme, for all U.S. service members.
Right, he's had an extraordinary military record, very close to General Mattis.
Navy SEAL, close to General Mattis, who of course is already in the administration. And I'm told by people close to him that this was a difficult decision between duty to his country, to people he served under before, but this conflict, because he looks at the White House and he sees, and I'm not going to use the colorful terms, this is a family program you have here, Anderson, but he sees a White House that is in chaos. And that's not something that he wanted to be associated with. And to have that trump the duty, which he has shown throughout his life and the many years of service, is significant. And it's significant for the administration if you can't attract that kind of top talent for an extremely important position.
Kirsten, what did you think this press conference accomplished? I mean, it certainly, I guess, was a way to push back on those critics who said, well, he's not talking to a lot of different reporters. He took questions from over an hour.
Well, I think from his perspective, it seems, he's probably a little frustrated with Sean Spicer, is what I would read into this. And this is sort of how I think he would like press conferences to be handled.
Right. If I was Sean Spicer today,
yeah.
I would be nervous.
Yeah, I would be nervous. And so I think he probably just decided, I'm just going to go out and do it because I know how to do it. And he did. I would say the upside of it, if there's an upside of it, is he spent an hour and 15 minutes talking to reporters, taking questions from a lot of reporters, even going back to a reporter who'd already asked questions. That's a good thing. We want him to have, we want to have a lot of access to him. Unfortunately, this sort of war with the media continued. That would be the downside.
Cornell, I mean, when the president says everything's going fine, the rollout on the executive order it went very well. The White House is running like a smooth oil machine, or I think that was the term. Yeah, smooth oil. I mean, how do you see it?
A smooth-oiled machine, if the machine were a jalopy in a junkyard. The fact of the matter is, where you have a press conference that's this chaotic, where the press is not the subject of engagement, but rather an object for criticism and for berating, this is not the kind of thing that Americans expect. And so where you have a president who favors Twitter as opposed to real engagement with the press, real engagement with the public, real engagement of the issues, this is very disappointing.
Jeffrey, I want to play a clip of something the president said today about his electoral college victory. Let's watch.
We got 306 because people came out and voted like they've never seen before. So that's the way it goes. I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan.
You said today that you had the biggest electoral margin since Ronald Reagan with 304 or 306 electoral votes. In fact, President Obama got 365 in 2000.
Well, I'm talking about Republican.
President Obama 332 and George H.W. Bush 426 when he won as president. So why should Americans trust
Well, no, I was given that information. I don't know. I was just given. We had a very, very big margin.
I guess my question is, why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive of being fake when you're providing information that's...
Well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around. But it was a very substantial victory. Do you agree with that?
You're the president.
Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. Yes.
I mean, Jeffrey, does it concern you that, look, everybody makes mistakes. He says something that's not true.
I never worked in the Reagan administration. Why are you asking me?
But he says something that's not true, and then when confronted with it, he said, first of all, he makes up something else. He was like, oh, well, I'm talking about Republicans, and then, of course, the reporter is able to say, well, actually, George W. Bush had a bigger margin.
Right. He made a mistake. He made a mistake. But I mean, in all honesty,
but his mistake is just saying, oh, well, someone gave me that information. I have no problem just spurting out information that somebody just happened to give me.
He said, I guess. Did you not hear that phrase in there? I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Anderson, look, Anderson, here's the problem. Let me just talk about this presser as it was today. What you really saw today was the launch of a new reality television program called Beat the Press. The star is Donald Trump, the executive producer is Donald Trump, and he even is into the set design, the East Room of the White House. Now, he is going to make this one of the most popular rituals in America for the next 4 years, where he stands up and goes mano a mano with his, from what he believes, I think it's safe to say, and his staff believes, are his adversaries in the media. That's what you saw today. And he's going to get viewers. He's going to get the people who hate him are still going to hate him, if not more so. And the people who love him are going to love him even more. So I really think that we're not
and this
getting
is, but I'm just saying,
necessarily what we're seeing
but
here.
turning the White House into a reality TV show, is that good for the country?
Well, is
I mean, you're the
television
one
good
saying
for
he's turning it into a reality TV show, so I'm just using
Yeah,
your
that's right,
phraseology.
right. Well,
Is
Anderson,
that good for the leader of the free
we
world?
don't have time for. Is television good for the country? I mean, if it's not, you and I and everybody on the panel, not to mention all the networks, are gonzo. I mean, that question has long been decided.
Jeffrey,
So
is there
here's
anything
somebody
Donald
not
Trump
like
could do that
Ronald
you would
Reagan
ever
who-
criticize?
What?
Is there anything
What? I'm
Donald
sorry?
Trump would ever do that you would ever
Not
criticize?
this. Well, sure. I just said he made a mistake with the business about the electoral college. Sure, he made a mistake. How's that?
Okay.
Is that good?
I don't know if it's good or not, but Carl Bernstein, you've seen a lot of presidential press conferences. What did you see today?
This was very unusual, but I think Donald Trump performed a real service by calling this press conference and being up there and answering those questions in the way that he did, and I hope we see a lot more of it. What we saw was a kind of free association. It was sprawling. It was all over the place. It was a roadmap of his mind. It is a very disturbing roadmap in many regards, and particularly this notion of going after the press and after leakers. He has made it clear he is going to enter into truly Nixonian territory. I've been very reluctant to bring up the example of Nixon and Watergate, but one of the things that happened in Watergate and the origins of it had to do with plugging leaks, the plumbers, illegal wiretapping, trying to stop leaks. The President of the United States, in all the things that is bedeviling him, can solve most of his problems by being forthcoming and open and transparent and getting down to work. No one in the press that I know of denies that he is the legitimate President of the United States, and it's time for him to focus on that, answer the legitimate questions, including about the hacking, including about his relationship with Russia, with the Russians, et cetera, et cetera. And if he wants to get on with the business of the country, he has the ability to do it, and right now, he is the impediment.
David Gergen, I mean, Carl's echoing something I said at the start, which is, I think one does give him credit for answering and taking questions from a wide variety of reporters and putting himself out there. You can't criticize him for not taking questions from reporters one day and then criticize him for doing it the next day. But did he really answer questions? I mean, on Russia, do we know any more than we knew before that hour and 15 minutes or whatever it was began? The most he said really was that, and I don't want to incorrectly quote him, but essentially that, he wasn't aware of anybody in his campaign making contact with Russia, or, he didn't know about it. He didn't say it didn't happen. He didn't say, I'm looking into it. He didn't say, I'll give you information as soon as I know. Did we learn more about him other than getting a very clear window into the head and the heart of Donald Trump?
We did get a look into the head and heart of Donald Trump, and what we saw was very murky. And I think I give him credit for having a press conference. He did go on the record on something very important. He said he did not ask General Flynn, did not direct General Flynn to make those phone calls to the Russian ambassador. He said he knew nothing about people in his campaign having these repeated contacts with the Russians. So now he's on record. Let the facts now come out in testimony and investigations and see if he bears him out. There are a lot of us who are skeptical about that. But I, as much as I think that this helps him with his base and continues to communicate with them, and using the old campaign techniques, I think the press conference, generally speaking, was a fiasco. It gave us, it showed us a president who's basically not just raucous but frequently unhinged, and it gave us a very firm sense that he's living in a different reality on many issues. He just sees the world differently than what a lot of other professionals in Washington, including the press, see it, and it's hard to shake him out of it. This business about the Electoral College, listen, this is not the first time this has come up. He's repeatedly said it. He's been repeatedly corrected, and I'm sure when he watches cable news shows, he receives the corrections, and yet he continues to state what are fake facts.
Yeah, we got to take a break. Much more ahead, a lot more to discuss, including